Van is obviously a great coach.
Got to do it with supreme focus, right? With razor sharp focus. Breathe what he's breathing.
But he's a better person.
Biggest thing you gave me was time. You didn't really know me. We were from the same neighborhood and area, but I was with a group of guys that wanted to go to college, wanted to play ball, and you actually gave us that reality that, hey, this could actually happen because we saw somebody that was like us and that we wanted to become.
Only thing that matters is you come out here, play after play after play after play, and that's the play we do. That's what matters.
Recruiting is about relationships. It's built on trust. It's built on doing the right things. And it's built on your head coaches and your athletic director, their vision. And I think we have two great leaders, both of those positions. So it makes it easy for me to go out and do what I do.
Be aggressive. Let's win. Here we go.
Once again, I'm excited to have another leader in the world of sports on Leaders Lead with Van Malone. Coaches and administrators across the country on all levels and in many different sports have enjoyed the great insight that we continue to share on this podcast. It also has been a remarkable experience for me personally. We've had the chance to share with conference commissioners, athletic directors, head coaches, and we've even had a Super Bowl champion coach grace our podcast. Our next guest, Deidre Merritt, has had a terrific career in athletics and has worked tirelessly to help student athletes succeed. She's held posts at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and worked for the last few years at the NCAA. She's an amazing leader, a fantastic cook, and a dynamic role model for anyone who aspires to work on the executive levels of intercollegiate athletics. Thanks so much for being here with us, Deidre.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. My honor, really.
Oh, well, again, we're fired up to have you, and we can't wait to get you in to some of the topics. And then, like I told you before, we might jump off topic. We've done that in the past. Mm-hmm. But my mom used to always say, don't ever say where you won't go, what you won't do, right? And so and so I always kind of consider it funny when I think about it, because in my career, I found myself in places where I definitely would have thought that I wouldn't be. For example, I wouldn't have ever thought that I would have been a coach at Mississippi State University, or I would have ever taken a job at the University of Tulsa. But throughout my career, I've found myself in those places, and they've been remarkable experiences. Mm-hmm. But what we want to do is we want to talk about your journey in college athletics, from being in an administrative role to now being the director of leadership development with the NCAA.
Okay. Listen, buckle up, because my journey is different, right?
Right.
I started in athletics as a secretary. Some many years ago. I won't say how many years ago.
Not that many.
Yes, you're right. But many years ago, I had a really good friend. We worked at the time at the Department of Veterans Affairs for the state of Wisconsin, a job that was an honor of mine to be able to serve those who protect us. And this friend, she decided to transfer over to one of the local universities, University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. And so she transferred over. It was in the state system. And the next thing you know, she called me and she said, hey, buddy, there's a job here in athletics at UWM, and I think you would be great for it because you love sports. Now, let me tell you something about me, Coach. I love sports, but I'm not athletic. Never a student athlete. I'm not coordinated enough. It's just not in me. I know my place. Right. I am a professional spectator. I know my place. So went through the process and was hired, and quickly just realized that, hey, I really like working here. Number one, I had a tremendous amount of respect for the student athletes and all that they had to do to be successful, both academically and athletically. But on top of that, I had a really, really high level of respect for coaches.
Right.
And I was fascinated by you all because I found myself making friends with all the coaches in the athletic department because I loved, number one, the style under pressure, right?
Right.
You know, I loved being the observer and watching you all react to pressure situations, that last second play and going into overtime, and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. But I also just loved your passion for the work. And so I quickly realized, putting that all together, I was like, you know, this is where I want to be. I really enjoy being in this space. And I looked out and had a boss who became my mentor. And he said to me one day, he said, you know, there's so much more you can do in this space. And I really want to work with you. It's going to be tough. I'm going to give you some tough love. I was a single parent. I had dropped out of college my third year to have my daughter. And he really worked with me, and he really, you know, talked to me about returning to school, which I did, finished my bachelor's degree, went straight into my master's degree, all while picking up little odds and ends jobs. I kind of built my internship in the department because I worked for a Division I mid-major. You know, there's not a lot of people, and you always have a job to do. And then when I graduated with my MBA, the athletic director at the time, he promoted me to assistant athletic director. And went into that role and was asked to design student athlete development programming, and just really had the opportunity to take my love for student athletes to a next level where I was able to serve them directly. Right. And that meant everything in the world to me. And that was how I became in contact with leadership development. And it was through my connections in leadership development where I fell in love with the programming there, because I felt like I had found home. I felt like I was surrounded by people who shared the same passion to serve as I did. And it was through building my relationships with the staff there at the time that back in 2016, they had a job opening, and I said, you know what, it's time to step out on faith. Milwaukee is home, was home to me. But I said, you know what, I really love what leadership development stands for, and I would love to be a part of it. And so I stepped out on faith and applied for the job, and was blessed to land it as an associate director. And then back in late 2018, was asked to serve as the interim director. And then January of 2020 was promoted into the position permanently. So that's my journey. Yeah.
Well, you know what? As I listen to that journey, as I walk down that road with you, what I continue to hear is serve. Yes. And you know, when you talk about leaders, and sometimes when you talk to leaders, they lose that, right? They lose the fact that they are servants, that they should serve the people that they work with. When I was, I had an opportunity to be a defensive coordinator. He's a good friend of mine, but he's a guy who worked on the staff with me. And it was really cool for me to listen to an interview that he gave, and the person questioned him about our relationship. And what he said was that he was there to help me be the best defensive coordinator that I could be. And that he was there to serve me. And it was cool because in my mind, I was there to serve him. I was there to do all I could to help him become a defensive coordinator. And so I really grabbed that, and I took that to every opportunity I have to coach, is to say that, okay, here at Kansas State, my job is to serve Coach Kleiman, our head coach, help him be the best head coach that he could be. And you know, when you operate down that roles, I always kind of look at it as a triangle. The leader is serving the people who work with him, and they are serving him, and you both are serving the players. And ultimately, players, they always want to please their coach, you know. So the players are trying to please the coaches, and the coaches are trying to please the player, and it just goes round and round. I think it operates best like that. But you, Deidre, of course, because one of the reasons is because you're a server, but you're a dynamic leader, and even even the most dynamic leaders in the last 2 years have been challenged. COVID, political unrest, activism, in sports, the social justice initiatives. What has the last 2 years taught you about your leadership?
Oh God. I think that I shared some of the same emotions that a lot of other, people in this space, a lot of leaders everywhere shared. Coach, there was a lot of sleepless nights at first, when the pandemic first started to take hold. A lot of sleepless nights because I struggled with how are we going to continue to work and serve in this space. Our programs at the time were more traditional in nature.
Right.
And so I struggled with trying to visualize how we would continue to be a relevant and useful and helpful entity in this space. I was also scared. I was scared, of what were the next steps going to be. We didn't know, for a long time, none of us knew what the next steps were going to be. But then, I listened to something that my late mother used to always say, and she used to always say, you know what, you got to pray on it and give it up to God and let it go. And I did, and it seemed like when I did that, the answer started to come. Like, you know what, it's time for some more exploration. It's time for, you can ask some questions, look around, see what everybody else is doing in the landscape, and understand that there's a place for you.
Right.
And the work that you do and the work that, the wonderful people who work with me, my teammates do. And so we did that. We just kind of took a step back and stepped into the role of observing and planning. And then we stepped back out. And when we stepped back out, I feel like we stepped back out with a bang, right? Which was good for us. But I think that some of the lessons I learned was to be resilient, to be determined in my actions, in my belief in myself, in my belief in the people that work and serve with me, and to be centered as a leader, to not forget who you serve, and to what purpose you serve them for. And ours is to educate and empower student athletes, both directly and indirectly. And that indirectly is through those who coach, teach, and lead them. And so to be patient, and to be as transparent with those that I work with, that I lead, as possible. And so, taking that and combining it all together, it really served me well in navigating us through not only the pandemic, but that keeping everything grounded, and it helped to serve us through the racial and social unrest that we've been dealing with it for years. I mean, it's just coming to the forefront. Let's be real about it. It's all of those things together that helped me to stay grounded, to be able to lend myself even more to those who needed me. And even more importantly, at that time, who needed me was my staff, and getting them to understand that we have a way out of all of this. We have a way to deal with this. It's just us sticking together. It's looking out for each other. It's expressing care for each other and love for one another. And we'll make it through. And we did. We're not done yet.
We're still making it. Yeah,
we're still making it. Yes, sir.
So as a coach who benefits daily by your work, I'd like to again say thank you, but thank you from that perspective. As we as coaches talk, and I have a lot of friends who are coaches and who are minority coaches, and I share with them some of the things that are going on, some of the work that you do, and being a part of the leadership collective. I'm really proud to to be a part of something that I think has been a long time coming. Yes. But I always use the term, and I've used it on this podcast a few times, that that there is strength in diversity. You know, when you look at something from the same glasses, from the same vision that you always look at it, I believe you lose something, which I do understand. You know, when you talk about coaches, when you talk about a moment where you lose your coach, right? When you talk about the place where you for whatever reason you lost your coach, he went on to a better opportunity, or you had to make a change for what you thought was the betterment of your program. That's a stressful moment for administrators. That's a stressful moment for people on a campus. Well, when you are under stress, most people, they go back to what they know.
Yeah,
They
always.
go to the comfort place, right? And so I think when you talk about diversity, though, there's a challenge with that, you know, because diversity sometimes, especially in this moment, you have to go to a place that you hadn't gone before. You have to try something new. You have to try a different vision, look at it in a different way. What is that challenge, the fact that people in administration and on campuses are reluctant to do that? What does that challenge present for you as you are in charge of the leadership collective?
So, you know what, first of all, thank you. Thank you for being a part of the Leadership Collective. It is a project that we have been working on for several years now. And I am so proud of the fact that we get the opportunity to showcase some of the best ethnic minority coaches and administrators in this business, so that we can eliminate the question of, or the age-old tired excuse of, where are these great administrators of color? I can't seem to find them, right? But your question is even bigger than the Leadership Collective. It's talking about diversity in the space of the whole entire picture. And what you have to think about when you want to be and embrace diversity is two things, in my opinion. One of them is self-awareness. The other one is vulnerability. Self-awareness to understand that your opinion, your thought, your action, your deed is not the only one. That there's so many different perspectives out here. That there's diversity in color, there's diversity in background, there's diversity in thought, there's diversity in everything. And having all of those different voices at the table only strengthens you, because it brings in perspectives, like you said, that you don't necessarily think about. But that's hard when you're a leader and you don't have that self-awareness piece to understand that, you know what, there's things out here I just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. The second piece, vulnerability, in my opinion, as a leader, is even tougher. It's not about internalizing and saying, I don't know what I don't know. When you're vulnerable, it's about emoting that and letting other people that you are teammates with, that you work with, that serve you, for lack of better words, it's about letting them know, you know what, I don't know.
Right.
And there's a lot of leaders who feel like they can't let that vulnerability show. And I'm here to tell you that the best way to get your team to follow behind you is to show vulnerability, is to be able to say to them, you know what, I don't have the answers right now. I don't know.
Right.
And also to be brave enough and strong enough as a leader to allow them at times to go out and find the answer for you. Think about those times when you've been around those types of leaders and they've been vulnerable enough and trusted you enough to share with you, you know what, Coach Malone, I don't have the answers. And you have that trusting relationship with them. What's one of the first things that you think about? You think about how can you help that person, right? Exactly. You want to help them. You want to get the answer for them. You want to do whatever it is that they can't do. And what does that do overall? That strengthens the team. So as a leader, if you can be self-aware enough to understand who you are, what you're about, what you're good at, what you may not be good at, where you need to grow, that's the first thing. And then the second thing is at times when necessary, being able to verbalize that with those who are part of your team, to be able to say and be brave enough to say, I don't have the answer. And then take it a step further and allow your teammates to help support you as the leader, instead of you always feeling like you have to lead from top down.
Right. Well, you know, that leaders throughout history have always been trained and wanted to be out front and wanted to have all the answers. But like you said, sometimes you just don't. And I don't think you lose power.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you lose power when you say you don't. Right.
Yep.
So
I agree.
One day I was an athlete, right? And I wouldn't profess at this moment to be athletic though. And I wouldn't, I mean, my players, they always challenge me. Yeah, coach, I know you played in the league, but how? Listen, man, I have one more play and I'm not going to waste it on you.
Right.
I say to them, I'm going to save my one play because maybe the Denver Broncos, they might go to the Super Bowl and they need to call me and they need me for that one play. So I'm saving
Right.
it. Well, as a player, you know, it's the yell of the crowd. And for me as a coach, it's this player who has struggled, and all of a sudden I see the light click on, right? It could be struggling academically or it could be struggling, you know, athletically, but I see the light click on. And that's the rush I get. For you, my question for you is what is that game day feeling for you? What is that rush in what you do every day? Where's your game day?
Oh gosh, you know, the beauty of working at the NCAA is that it's the same sort of platform, just a little wider. I get to cast a wider net.
Right.
So for me, wins are when you win. So if you and I have connected, you've been a part of our programs, and you put the work in to be able to get to that next level, and your time comes, I celebrate you.
Right.
Our student athletes, when I get the opportunity to meet thousands of student athletes all over the country every year. And I get those emails from them after I've met them and they've been through our programs, and they talk about how the programs have changed their life and how they're going to take what they learn with them as they move through life and continue to go forward and be productive adults contributing to society. And I always affectionately tell them, and I hope one day you hire me in the twilight of my career. And you probably won't even have to pay me. Just let me walk around the hallways and just talk to everybody. But I hope that you think about me when you get to where you want to be. That's a win for me. And then the third win for me is with my staff. I love my staff. I love them dearly. I'm so proud of them. I think I have had the opportunity to be blessed to put together a fantastic team of servant leaders who really, really understand what we do and who we do it for. And so when I get the opportunity to put them up on the platform and allow them to shine through the work that we do, and they do it and they kill it, then they made game over. I'm good. You know, so for me, the wins they're never about me. It's about we. It's about you all. It's about us. And so seeing other people win has always been something that I didn't identify right away. But now I understand it is key to me. And I tell people all the time, I am a servant leader who aspires to participate in the transformational experiences of others. And so when you transform and you change and you're feeling even better about yourself, and it shows through your actions and your movements and your leadership qualities, and you go on to be able to impart and instill that in others and create your own culture of excellence, I win.
Right.
It's everything to me.
So this book, I'm not really like doing a commercial, but this book, The Energy Bus.
Yeah.
It's by John Gordon. And so that book speaks to that, right? And to me, once you realize, you know, where your wins come from, and not only where they come from, but if they happen to come from the place that yours comes from, man, it's awesome, right? So if your wins come from helping other people, right?
Yes.
If you understand that you can get so much by helping other people achieve their goals, or you can do it from any profession, right? It doesn't have to just be sports, right?
True. Yes.
But when you realize that, to me, that is the most awesome feeling. So we've had some awesome leaders on this podcast, like I mentioned before, and we've exchanged some great ideas about leadership, right? And honestly, people always point back, and you kind of did it earlier. They always point back to someone who has helped them learn the fine art of leading people.
Mm-hmm.
Who has been the leader that you've been around, that person that has taught you how to lead, and what did that person teach you?
So I'm going to cheat, right? I'm telling you right now. So is it really cheating if I tell you I'm cheating?
Not really. Not
Okay,
really.
cool. All right. Because I have two.
Okay.
And one is my mother. My mom, Gwen Merritt, she passed away in 2016. My mother was a sickly child who had to claw and fight just to stay alive. And who, left home at a young age and moved all the way to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and built a life for herself, and raised me as a single parent. And so I saw her every day get up and be resilient in love and service to me. And not just me, but those in her circle who she loved, family, friends, other people's children. And so my mother, one of the biggest lessons my mother taught me was, as she would affectionately say, don't be a punk. Get up and, learn to live to fight another day. And so that resilience is very strong in me. And it's something that if I don't get it right the first time, I may go back and sit down, lick my wounds, but I'm strategizing about how I will get it the second time, and it will happen.
Right.
So I have to give a nod to my mom for that. The second one was one of my first bosses, actually, the man who hired me at the state of Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs. His name was Mel Hall. He is also deceased. Mel worked with my mother years ago, and then I had the opportunity to work with Mel, always in service to others. He was a veteran, but he always was in service to others, community worker, and then also went on to work for Veterans Affairs. Mel was the one who impressed upon me the idea of leading from behind, that you get your best work from those that are on your team and work with you when you trust them enough and you prepare them enough and then push them out front and let them go. And you as the leader stay behind to make sure, behind the pack, to make sure that everything is moving in the way that it's supposed to move, and that everybody is in their right places to be successful. So he always instilled that in the people that he worked with through his actions, where he would always be the one to volunteer us as experts on a particular subject, push us out to go participate in programs. Always, if an idea came from us, he was always the first person to say, no, that wasn't my idea. I might have told you about it, but that was Dee Dee's idea. So let me bring her in so that she can talk to you about it. And that's what I do with my staff. And so those two things, resiliency and leading from behind, I think are true hallmarks of who I am as a leader.
Great. My head coach here, Chris Kleiman, he does the same things that Mr. Hall you talked about. He does not. He's slow, very slow to take credit, but he's quick to take responsibility. When it doesn't go right, he's like, okay, I did that.
Yep.
And it's been real cool for me, being in this role, because I've seen the assistant head coach role. That thing is passed out all over the place. But, you know, one of the things he did when he proposed to me to, you know, take on this responsibility is he said, listen, I want to help you to learn so that when you get an opportunity, you'll be ready. And I've had some tremendous experiences from leading the staff meetings to when he leaves, when he goes, he says, okay, here's what you're going to do. Here's what I need you to tell the team. You run the staff meeting. Here's what I need to make sure you talk through. And a tremendous experience that as an assistant coach, you never think about those things. You never think about the fact that, okay, I got to make sure that I allow this person to speak. I got to make sure that I think about the head coach thinks about those things. I only think about my little position group. And then, you know, I've had the opportunity when he's had to make tough decisions, right? When the head coach has to make tough decisions, assistant coaches run off because
hide. They don't want anything to do with it.
But when you know, it's just been cool for me, and he's admitted that it's been good for him because that's a lonely place at times. You know, that chair is lonely, and so sometimes, you know, I have the opportunity to be a part of that, to shoulder some of the blame. Well, that was Van's idea, you know, but it's been really cool. So you know, as you talk about those people who have had, especially your mom, who's had a direct influence in your life, I think that's special. So then when we talk about choosing, right, choosing the people, and because we're talking about the energy bus, it's about choosing the right people to get on the bus with you. I think that's got to be one of the keys for success. So when you think about hiring a new staff member, how did you look to identify who will be the best additions to your team?
Well, I think that that self-awareness comes back into play, right? And it's about really taking a look back at yourself as a leader and at your department, your team, whatever it is that you're leading, and really making a true assessment of what's good and what's bad, what's working, what's not working, where are the gaps, and then creating sort of what I'll call a success profile of an individual. To say that, you know, I know for me, a lot of times I don't like dealing in the details. I'm a 30,000 foot picture dreamer.
Right.
And so if I'm looking at an individual, you know, then it's like, okay, I know that I need to look at an individual who has some attention to detail. So those are some of the small things, but the bigger overall picture, Coach, is that I have to have people who understand that it's not about me, it's about we. It's about us. That they really understand and grasp what servant leadership is, and that they understand what we are here to do, but more importantly, who we are here to serve.
Right.
And that's something that's innate in people. It's not something that you can learn. It's not something that you can pick up from talking to somebody. It's something that you can bring out of yourself if you already have it, and make it more pronounced. But you have to have it. And there's nothing wrong with those people who don't have that mindset. There's a place in this world for them too. But in my corner of the world, in the business where I am, and the association that I work for, we are a membership association. We are here to serve you. We're here to serve our student athletes. We're here to serve our administrators. Service is part and parcel of who we are. And so that is the most important thing when I'm looking at individuals, because some things can be taught. A lot of things can be taught. You can look at it and say, well, I need someone who is proficient in this sort of program. You can teach them that. You can look at it and say, well, I need someone who knows how to do this. A lot of this stuff you can teach, but it's really about looking at those characteristics that can't be taught, and understanding that you need to bring individuals in who complement you in that area. And that's what's important. And so for me, service is key. Understanding that the big picture is about what we do to look out for others with the job that we do every day. That to me is key.
And you know what? I think those same aspects they have, because I always, as I talk to different coaching buddies of mine, we talk about the fact that you have to, as a coach, you also have to understand that you're a servant, that you are serving, right? You are serving people. You're serving our student. Because guess what? They can go on YouTube somewhere and figure out how to backpedal. You know what I mean?
Hello? Exactly.
So you have to, I just think in our business, in the business of athletics, in the business, of course, of college athletics, if you're going to work with these student athletes, anyone who is interacting with them has to understand that you're there. If we have no athletes, we have no athletics, right?
Nothing.
And so I think that crosses the board, in terms of coaches as well. So now let's shift gears just a little bit and talk about those coaches that you serve, because I think this point will be something that as coaches and administrators who aspire to take that next step, they'll really gain from this question. So when you think about the coaches you serve, what is the biggest factor that you think, what is most important when you are trying to help someone to maximize their leadership capabilities? If you're going to be in charge of people, what are some things that you must develop, that you must have if you're going to be a leader? And I'm talking to the young coach. I'm talking to the coach who wants to be a head coach.
You have to want more than that. Why do you want to be a head coach? It can't just be because you want to be in charge. It can't just be because, like we always hear all the time, I want to run my own program. I want to run my own show, do my own thing. Right. It has to be more than that. There has to be a service component to it. You have to be going into it for the right reasons. If you don't, you fail. Eventually, you fail. So for me, when I'm working and my consultants are working with coaches in particular, we always start out with that conversation. Why? Why are you here? Why do you want to undertake this journey? Why do you want to ultimately serve as the head coach of XYZ program? And it can't just be about because you want to be in charge. We don't have time for that. You have to come to the table with more than that. We need to know why. What effect do you want to have on the game? What effect do you want to have on student athletes? What effect do you want to have on the athletic department that you'll be working with, the campus that you'll be working on, the community that you'll be working in? Like it gets to the point where it's all the level where it's almost global. And so you have to be thinking about it in that mindset and not just, well, I want to be in charge because I want to be in charge because, I've worked for these coaches and I see what they do. And so this is what I want to do. Right. That's not it for us. So for me, I'm always walking into these situations, whether it be an informational phone call, whether it be walking into the first day of one of our programs, a conversation, impromptu. I'm always asking that question, and I always want that question asked by those who work with me of why. Why are you here? Why? You need to be able to understand why you want to do this and then be able to properly articulate it so that other people can see your vision. And if you put the thought into it and really dig down deep and ask yourself that question from the standpoint of being real and saying, okay, really, why do I want to do this? Then you will work with you to get that message together the way that you want it to be, so that when you're sitting down in front of that athletic director or that school president or chancellor, you're able to create this vision that they look and they see on you and only you as an option.
Right.
the best answer for their program. But it all starts with why. And I know that's the name of Simon Sinek's book, but it's really true. It starts with why. Why do you want to do this? And
Yeah.
understanding that that is the core and the key of starting that journey, is starting with why.
So we're gonna go and do this commercial, this Energy Bus book commercial again. But that book taught me that, made me realize that again, is that, and this thing that we get to do, this thing, this can change the world. So since then, I always tell people, I want to change the world through sports, right?
Yeah.
So what do you mean, Coach? How do you want to change the world? Guess what? The young man who plays cornerback for me, one day he's gonna have a son, right? And so the things that I teach that young man, he's gonna teach his son, right?
Yeah.
And so that son is gonna marry a lady, and they're gonna have 3 kids, and he's gonna teach some of those same things that Coach Malone taught his dad. And that kid is going to have a son who is going to one day find the cure to cancer, right? And it's because of what I taught many years ago. I don't know where I'll be at that moment, but and that's the way I look at it. I look at it that guess what? Some of my guys, it's taking a road, right? It's taking a road. Didn't I tell you to do this way, right? But guess what? One of these days, that light bulb that we talked about earlier is going to go on. It's going to come on, and he's going to get it. And then for the rest of his life, I won't have to worry about him again. I got him. Now I'm using him to help me change another life, right? And so I think for me as a coach, yes, it is about tackling and running and throwing and catching and blocking. It is about that stuff. But more importantly, it's about pouring into young men so that when the air is out of the football, now who are they? I told my players the other day, what is happening in your life that I'm a part of for the next 5, 6, 7 years, it's going to be great, right? You're going to have the opportunity to play in the NFL, and that's going to be great. But honestly, what I want to see is the fruit. The fruit won't be 5, 6 years from now. The fruit will be 25 and 30 years. That's when I get to see it. Like I have one of my former players, he's a coach. He's a head. I coached him in high school, and he's a head coach at the University of Colorado Mesa, Tremaine Jackson. So that's fruit, Or I think about my old high school coach. One of my old high school coaches, I had the opportunity to work with him at the University of North Texas, work alongside my old high school coach.
Right.
That's fruit, And so that's the way I look at it, is that eventually as a leader, you get to reap the reward, reap the benefits of all this work that we do right now. So I got one final question, and then we'll start talk about the food, the cooking podcast.
Yes.
Deidre and Van. But think back to your first job, right? Think back to your first job.
Yes.
How would you say you've grown since that moment?
Oh gosh. I found my niche. When I was a young leader, I won't, I'm not afraid to or ashamed to admit that I listened to a lot of voices that I shouldn't have. There were a lot of people, especially other women, who looked at me and said, "You're too nice. You're too nice to exist in this space. You're going to get, you're going to get eaten alive. It won't work for you. You're going to have to, you got to be mean. You got to be, direct. You got to you got to take the emotion out of things." And you know what, Coach? I tried that for a couple years, and I'll be honest, I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. I felt like I was an imposter. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't have the uncomfortable conversation, because I can.
Right.
But overall, just operating in that space, that's just not me. I'm a person who operates from a space of care, a space of genuine care, genuine love for people, and wanting to help other people, and wanting to give of myself to help others. And so when I finally stepped out of that imposter role and say, you know what, I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't try this my way. And I did. Then I started to go down a journey that has brought me to a place where I'm the happiest that I've ever been professionally, because I'm able to bring my true self into work, into spaces with my staff and with those people that we serve, and show people that I genuinely and truly care for them. And also learn that for me, I realized that when you have a genuine relationship that is trusting and full of care, you can have those difficult conversations, and the impact is different. It hits different with people because they know you care about them. And if a person knows that you care about them, then you getting up in their face when it's needed, it makes them want to go and do the things that they need to do to get better, to rectify the problem, whatever the situation may be. It's only when people don't feel as though you care for them that you try and do those same things, and it comes off as being disingenuous and tends to go down a bad path. And so I just started being my true self, and I started bringing my true personality and merging it and meshing it into my leadership. And it's truly brought me to a place of happiness, of some success, although I'm very hungry and very competitive, and want to continue to be even more successful in serving others. But I just try and bring my true self into my leadership. And I feel like as long as I continue to do that, then I'll continue to stay on the right path.
Well, you always in all your answers, you give a lot to unpack. And, I couldn't be more, you used the word earlier, you said honored, but I couldn't be more honored to have you on, because you're a dynamic leader. And like you said, your story is very unique, but it is a testament to your faith, which I know you're a faith-driven person. And I'm so proud of that, because, you love to see people who allow their faith to be exposed. You love to see those people have success. You love to see people, like you said a second ago, who are genuine and who are not, who don't operate in the manner that the world would say you need to operate. You need to cut down anything in front of you. Why not build it up? Why not build people up? We in recruiting, we always talk about the fact that if I'm wasting time beating down another program, I can't talk about my program. If my program is so good, why would I waste time? And so I'm so glad that you stopped listening to those voices, because what you do is beautiful, and many people recognize it. And of course, the success you have is because of that. The way that your team works is because of that. I always talk to our players about leadership. Okay, you can't, if you force them to do it, now that's dictatorship.
Yes, sir.
And they can't wait until you turn your back. Because if you turn your back, they're going to get you, right? But what you want to do as the leader is you want the men and women to willingly accomplish the mission. The most important thing is the mission. And so you want them to willingly accomplish the mission. And I say to our guys that everyone can't be the leader, because some people, they can't figure out how to do that, right? Some people, the only way they do it is by yelling at you and by being mean and by forcing it down your throat, right? There's a trick, there's an art to getting people, many people, to willingly accomplish the mission and go down a path with you. Well, Deidre, I appreciate you. I'm so happy to have the opportunity to finally meet you.
Yes, me
I
too.
warn you, we're friends now.
Yes, we are friends.
And that's just the way it works. You know, I recruited Milwaukee many years ago. And this is when I was at North Dakota State.
Yeah.
So North Dakota State is like a 7-hour, North Dakota State was my first college job. And so it's a 7-hour drive from Fargo to Milwaukee.
Yes.
And so what happened is I'm in the front of the building at North Dakota State. I'm going to drive this 7-hour trip, and North Dakota State is a nice program. We have a lot of resources. Well,
True.
I didn't necessarily understand that at the time. So I had all my clothes stacked in the back seat of my car, and I was getting ready for this 7-hour drive. Right. The most I can drive is 2 hours, and I start having a fit. But anyway, I was off to go on this 7-hour drive, and the head coach happened to walk out of the building, and we were talking and kind of walked over by my car, and he said, "What is this? All this stuff you got in your car?" I said, "Well, it's all my clothes, so when I drive to Milwaukee, to go recruit, I'm gonna drive." And then he said, "Drive?" He said, "You're not gonna fly?" And it's like when he asked the question, I knew at that moment that I didn't have to drive.
Right.
Before the question, I thought I had to drive.
Right.
So I said, "Yeah, I won't fly next time, but I just kind of wanted to see how it felt to drive." First of all, I had driven this trip like 3 other times, on the road.
Oh my goodness.
And so it was pure torture to make this drive. I never drove again.
Good for you.
I never drove again. I flew from then on out. But by the time I got to Milwaukee, I didn't want to recruit anybody. I was so tired. I needed 3 days of sleep. So now that I know I can fly in and out of Milwaukee, maybe I'm gonna have to make me a trip to Milwaukee again. I won't be so angry. Right.
Well, yeah, come to Milwaukee. Milwaukee is still home. I still come here quite often. I'm here right now. But Indy is where the national office is for the NCAA. So you don't have to come to Indy.
Yeah, well, I made a few trips.
You can cook the crawfish, and I'll pull the grill out, and I'll grill the steaks, and then we'll have our meal.
Deidre and Van, surf and turf with a different twist.
That's right. Surf and turf with a twist.
Right. Yep. I like it. Well, thank you, Deidre. I appreciate you.
All right.